I gave my last 50 coins to save a captive alpha wolf. What happened next changed my life forever. Casey Malone hurried down the dimly lit street, the moon casting an ethereal glow on the pavement as her tired legs propelled her toward home. She had just finished another grueling shift at the diner, her back aching and her stomach growling like a wounded animal. That's when she saw it. A small crowd gathered at the local park, their voices mingling in the cool night air, buzzing with excitement. A flyer flapped against a nearby bench, advertising a fundraiser to rescue an alpha wolf trapped in a heartless facility nearby. The wolfess spirit called to her, a magnificent creature symbolizing freedom she desperately craved in her own suffocating life. It was a moment that struck her heart with the force of 1,000 drums. Just a week ago, she had been counting every penny, every sigh, every meal shared with her ailing father. But tonight, as she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, something pulled her closer to that gathering. She reached into her pocket and felt the jagged edges of her last 50 coins. It was all she had, enough for a simple meal, a chance at survival. Yet, for a fleeting moment, the idea of giving it away sparkled like a fresh dew in sunlight, igniting a fire within her. An impulsive rush of warmth and compassion, she stepped forward, feeling the eyes of the crowd on her. Casey took a deep breath, threw the coins into the donation box, and a rush of empowerment surged through her veins. The clink of the coins echoed in her ears as a hush swept over the crowd, and she found herself transformed. Those coins represented hope, a chance to save a life. She turned away, tears brimming in her eyes, feeling both weightless and anchored all at once. The days passed. Stories spread about her act of kindness, reshaping how the townspeople viewed her. No longer just another low-income worker, they began to see Casey as a beacon of resilience and heart. Affection and respect danced in the air, and for the first time in years, she felt noticed. Yet, this newfound light was short-lived. Soon, news broke that the animal sanctuary was in dire jeopardy, facing closure due to financial mismanagement. The guilt clawed at her. Had she helped create a new crisis instead of solving one? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With the weight of her father's medical bills pressing into her every thought, Casey knew she had to act. She decided to organize a fundraiser, a shimmering tapestry woven from the threads of community, compassion, and hope. She poured her soul into rallying her neighbors, spinning stories of connection and unity, reminding them all of the shared values they held dear. The pivotal town council meeting approached, the air thick with anticipation. Casey stood bravely before an audience that had, for too long, overlooked her and poured her heart out. With trembling hands and a voice carrying the weight of her father's burdens, she pleaded for support for the sanctuary, revealing how it mirrored the struggles faced by their community. As her words sank in, a glimmer of understanding sparked among the crowd. Just then, an unexpected offer of help emerged from a fellow neighbor, igniting hope within her heart. But before she could fully embrace it, a council member launched a bombshell revelation that threatened to unravel everything they had fought for. Casey felt the ground shift beneath her as doubt crept in. Could she reclaim her narrative? Would the town's indifference swallow her resolve whole? Only time would tell if she could turn her moment of desperation into the catalyst for a brighter future. The council chamber hummed with restless energy, electric tension hanging in the air as Casey stepped back, her heart racing. She could feel the curious stares of the townsfolk piercing through her, but there was no retreat now. She had bared her heart, made herself vulnerable, yet doubt crept in like an uninvited guest. The council member, a gray-haired man known for his bluntness, cleared his throat. While I appreciate your passion, Casey, we can't overlook the fact that the sanctuary has had repeated financial issues. Throwing good money after bad is not how this town operates. Gasps erupted from the audience as whispers swirled around, wrapping her in a cocoon of anxiety. The life Casey tried to build for her father and herself felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. This was not just about a wolf now. It was about hope, community, and the fragility of dreams. All she could think was that with this one revelation, everything she fought for was standing on the edge of a cliff, but she wouldn't let the fear consume her. With every ounce of strength, Casey pressed her palms against the wooden podium, grounding herself, feeling the coolness beneath her fingers. She looked at her neighbors' familiar faces she knew cherished the sanctuary as much as she did. She spoke again, her voice steady but a touch fierce. "You're right. The sanctuary has flaws, but it's not about investing money into something broken. It's about saving a piece of our community, of who we are. This sanctuary is a refuge at a place where creatures like that wolf can heal, and where we can remind ourselves of the compassion that connects us." Soft murmurs rippled through the audience. Their eyes, once filled with skepticism, now glimmered with a trace of belief. Was it enough? Would her words reach them? Another hand shot up. A neighbor named Elena, a middle-aged woman with frizzy hair and a soft heart. "I've known Casey for years, and if anyone deserves to be listened to, it's her. She may not have much, but she pours her heart into everything she does. Maybe we can't save every animal, but we can support those who need us most." The crowd began to nod, the tides of uncertainty slowly shifting. A flicker of hope ignited in Casey's chest. It was small, but she clung to it. The room felt warmer, more inviting as other neighbors stood one by one, some sharing their own experiences of sacrifice and resilience. The crisis had touched them all, and for the first time, they felt united in their struggle. As the meeting pressed on, Casey sensed a change of fire kindling in those around her. An unlikely coalition was forming, drawing from the depths of shared pain and passion for justice. Then, in a strategic move, the council president chimed in again, his tone softened. "If this community is willing to rally behind this cause, perhaps we can explore options." Hope blossomed, swelling within her like a long-awaited rain. But before she could bask in it, doubt whispered, asking if she was truly ready to confront the difficult decisions ahead. The meeting wrapped with a different kind of energy. Casey felt exhilarated and exhausted, her heartbeat echoing the resilience around her. But the road ahead was laden with uncertainty. As she stepped outside into the night air, the moon painted a silver path before her. What came next would demand courage she wasn't sure she fully had. The pivotal moments were unfolding, and yet Casey couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was still to come. Was she strong enough to face it? Could she protect not just the wolf, but the community she had begun to see as a family? The journey was just beginning, and as she looked toward the darkness, the question lingered: would she become the voice they needed when the stakes were high? The chill of the night air wrapped around Casey like a heavy blanket as she walked away from the council chamber, the echoes of the meeting still resonating in her mind. Every step felt heavy, caught between joy and uncertainty. The flicker of hope ignited within her had been enough to rally the townsfolk, but she knew fields of conflict and challenges awaited on the horizon. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, startling her. She pulled it out, glancing at it as she walked. It was a message from Elena. "Let us meet tomorrow. We need to talk about next steps." The words filled her with a mix of anticipation and dread. Did this mean they were really doing it? Did this mean they were ready to take action? She could barely grasp the enormity of it all. One moment, she was just a girl hoping to save a wolf, and now, she was part of something bigger, a beacon for her community. Her heart filled with warmth, but her mind fought to keep the bright spark at bay. They were facing a mountain of problems, from funding to approval from higher authorities. What if she fumbled? What if they failed? As Casey reached her small home, the familiar creak of the door greeted her. Inside, the comforting scent of her father's old armchair filled the living room. A space with memories of warmth and laughter now felt heavy with the burden of responsibility. She flicked on the lamp, casting a soft glow in the dim room, and plopped down on the couch. Her heart sank. What if I'm not enough? The thoughts tumbled through her mind like dice rolling on a table of fortune. The sanctuary meant everything to her, a refuge where lost souls found solace. If she let it slip away, she couldn't bear to think about how that would reflect on her. How could she explain it to her father? They had always fought together, but now he was gone, leaving her to navigate this storm alone. The familiar sound of rustling paper snapped her from her thoughts. She shuffled through the papers on the small table, finding old bills and a flyer from the sanctuary's last fundraiser. You can make a difference. Those words stood out brightly, almost mocking her doubts.
Could she really?
Before she could spiral further, she took a calming breath. If I can inspire even one person to believe, she let the sentence hang in the air, the thought blooming in her chest. She recalled the faces that had joined her in support today: Elena, the council members, even the skeptical ones who had begun to see the sanctuary's value. They were more than just townsfolk. They were family now, bonded by a shared mission. Just then, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from the sanctuary's headkeeper, Darren. Hey, Casey. We need to talk strategy. Gentlemen at the council are more receptive than they've been, but we've got to act quickly before anything turns around. Her pulse quickened. This was it. Action. A plan.
Hope.
I'll be there, she replied, determination flooding her voice. After ending the call, a rush of energy fueled her. She was ready to fight for the wolf, for the sanctuary, and for the people who believed in her. The feeling washed over her, a surge of courage igniting a fire she never knew existed within. All those whispers of doubt faded into a whispering breeze, carried away by her newfound resolve. As she prepared for bed, she couldn't help but feel that something significant was brewing. The battle was far from over, but she was not alone. She stepped out onto her porch, taking a deep breath of the cool night air, the promise of change lingering in the atmosphere. Little did she know, the next day would bring unexpected twists and tests of loyalty that could shift the very foundation of her fight. What awaited her in the morning sun? Would the town truly rally behind her cause, or would shadows of doubt creep in once more, threatening to extinguish the light she was trying to kindle? The sun peeked through the curtains, casting golden rays across Casey's bedroom. She blinked against the brightness, the weight of the world still settled on her shoulders.
Today was the day.
She could feel it in her bones, an electric buzz in the air. As she got ready, her mind raced with 1,000 plans, possibilities, and potential pitfalls. Each outfit she tried felt too formal or too casual. She settled on a simple blue shirt, one that reminded her of her father's comforting presence. He had always told her to be true to herself. That's your real strength, he'd say with a warm smile. She inhaled deeply, holding on to that belief, willing it to guide her through the day. On her way to the sanctuary, the town appeared alive with energy. Children laughed as they raced past on bicycles, couples walked hand in hand down the familiar streets, and neighbors exchanged friendly nods. It felt right. People were starting to care again. She struggled to keep her own smile from spreading too wide, fearful of breaking the fragile moment. Arriving at the sanctuary, her heart raced with both excitement and anxiety. As she stepped inside, the earthy scent of hay and the soft sounds of animals greeted her. A few volunteers chatted in the corner, and she recognized Elena's voice, steady and reassuring.
Hey.
Casey. Elena waved, eyes bright. We've got some folks here who want to help. Casey's heart lifted.
Really?
That's amazing. Elena leaned in closer. I told them about the wolf and the council meeting. They're all in. They want to help us fight for it. Some even brought donations. As Casey moved toward the group, she could hardly grasp the magnitude of what was happening. It was one thing to dream of support, but another to see it materialize before her eyes. Each friendly face in the room was an acknowledgement that they believed in something bigger, something worth fighting for. They huddled in a circle as Elena introduced Casey. This is our leader. She's been fighting for the sanctuary and its residents. Let us hear how we can contribute. She looked around, her voice shaking only slightly. We need to rally everyone, get as many signatures as we can against the permits that threaten the sanctuary. Also, we need funds for the upcoming legal fees. Voices echoed back. Count me in. I can organize a bake sale. Let us spread the word on social media. With every idea exchanged, Casey felt a storm of determined energy circulate around her. Pumped with adrenaline, she felt weightless. She glanced out the window, catching sight of the wolf enclosure. There lay their beloved captive Alpha, with a quiet strength that mirrored her own. She would do everything she could to save him. But just then, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. Enough with the theatrics, Casey. If you keep pushing, you won't like what happens next. Her stomach twisted, dread settling in. Who could it be? Are you okay? Elena asked, noticing Casey's sudden shift in demeanor. For a moment, uncertainty flickered in Casey's chest, but she shook it off. Yeah, everything is fine. She pushed the message to the back of her mind, knowing now was not the time for fear to take root. With morale high, she refocused on the task ahead. The day unfolded in laughter, camaraderie, and a buzzing sense of purpose. But with each passing moment, that message gnawed at her thoughts. What did it mean? Who would threaten her? And would they stop her before she even got started? As she wrapped up discussions with the volunteers, Casey felt a sense of clarity wash over her. They were stronger together. But the truth lingered like a storm cloud overhead, ready to strike when she least expected it. Tomorrow would be even bigger, but what plans would they need to put in place to protect not just their cause, but themselves? The next morning dawned with a heavy fog that blanketed the town like a shroud. Casey pulled her favorite blue shirt over her head, trying to shake off the remnants of the anonymous threat from yesterday. She glanced out the window. The wolf enclosure was hidden in the haze, just like her worries. After a quick breakfast that she barely tasted, the adrenaline gnawed at her stomach. The day ahead loomed like a mountain, both daunting and exhilarating. She grabbed her backpack, filled with flyers and a tablet to track signatures. Each step to the sanctuary felt like a leap into the unknown. Upon arrival, the sanctuary buzzed with energy. Volunteers milled about, some setting up tables for the bake sale while others practiced speeches for the town hall meeting. There was a sense of urgency in the air, a feeling that this fight for the wolf and for their community was just the beginning. Casey, over here. Elena's voice broke through the noise, and Casey rushed over, her heart warming with the sight of familiar faces rallying for a cause they all believed in. Today is the day, Casey declared, her voice steady this time. We're going to make a real impact. Let us do it. Cheered a volunteer, Sarah, who was in charge of gathering signatures. I've printed 100 copies of the petition. We can get even more before the meeting tonight. They scattered into the town, armed with determination and a cause that tied them together. With every door knocked and every conversation sparked, Casey felt her worries about the ominous text fragmenting into something manageable, something actionable. But that nameless fear still lingered, lurking at the edges of her enthusiasm. As they collected signatures, Casey couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was subtle but unsettling. She caught glimpses of a man in a dark coat following them at a distance, always turning his back just as she looked his way. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled, and for the first time that day, doubt started to creep in. When the afternoon sun pierced through the fog, she took a deep breath. This is about more than just the wolf, she said to her group while gathering for a break. It's about saving what we hold dear, our community, our values. They nodded, gratitude and resolve in their expressions. But just as she was ready to dive back into the rallying, her phone buzzed again. She pulled it out, her heart racing. Another message from the unknown number. You're playing with fire, Casey. Back off or face the consequences. This time, anxiety washed over her like a cold wave. Casey clenched her phone tightly, almost wanting to throw it into the nearest trash can. But then she caught sight of the wolf enclosure, the alpha wolf watching her with calm, knowing eyes. Determined, she took a deep breath and replied, I won't back down. You can't intimidate me. With that, she put the phone away, shaking off the creeping dread. They were close to reaching their signature goal and generated a serious buzz around town. The day faded, and evening shone with warm hues, illuminating the sanctuary as they prepared for the town hall meeting. People began to gather, and Casey could feel the energy surging, the kind of energy that ignited hope. As the crowd murmured, Casey looked out at the gathered townspeople. Suddenly, she felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Elena. "You ready for this?" Casey's heart raced, but when she returned Elena's gaze, she saw the unwavering faith in her friend's eyes. "More than ever," she breathed. The moment was electric, but beneath it all, Casey still sensed that shadow looming. What would happen next? And who was behind the threats? Someone who wanted to see her falter. As they stepped forward together, ready to face the audience, the question recoiled in her mind: could she truly protect the wolf and her new family when the storm was brewing right at her heels? The town hall echoed with the buzz of conversation as Casey stepped inside, the anticipation palpable. The warm glow of overhead lights fought against the fading day outside, casting an inviting but nervous warmth. As she looked around, she saw familiar faces: friends, neighbors, fellow volunteers, everyone gathered to fight for the wolf and the sanctuary they all cherished. Her heart thudded in her chest. This was it. This was her moment. Elena squeezed her hand, and Casey felt a boost of confidence. "Let us show them what we believe in," Elena said with a smile that radiated strength. They found a spot near the front, where the council, all stern faces and measured expressions, took their seats. The murmurs quieted down as the mayor stood up, holding an agenda like a shield. The plan was simple: discuss the future of the sanctuary and the ongoing push against the council's recent eviction notice. "Welcome, everyone," the mayor began, voice steady and authoritative. "We are gathered here to address the future of Timber Valley Sanctuary." Glancing at the petition in her hand, Casey felt the weight of every signature, every heartbeat behind this cause. They needed to articulate their support clearly, to make the council understand what losing the sanctuary meant. One by one, volunteers stepped up to speak passionately about their experiences with the wolves, their hopes for the future, and the undeniable connection their community had formed with these creatures. Each story added more power to their mission. Casey felt her spirit lift with every voice raised in solidarity. As the night wore on, Casey's nerves faded and were replaced by passion. It wasn't just about the wolf anymore, it was about standing up for what they loved. Suddenly, a commotion erupted toward the back of the hall. The man in the dark coat she had seen earlier. He stood up, fingers gripping the edge of a chair as he called out, "You're wasting your time. The council has made up their mind." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Casey's heart raced again, but this time her determination crystallized. "Who are you?" Casey demanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife.
What do you want?
He smirked, confidence radiating off him like a dark cloud. "Just here to remind you that some battles are better left unfought," he replied, his eyes sharp as they darted across the room, looking for wavering souls. "It's a fight worth having," Casey shouted back, feeling emboldened by the collective energy surrounding her. "We stand for our wolves and our community. You can't silence us." The crowd erupted into applause, and Casey's heart soared. She had sparked something, invoked the spirit of togetherness that had long been buried beneath fear and doubt. But as cheers filled the room, the man turned away, leaving a chilling whisper in the air. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." The sharpness of his words cut through the enthusiasm. As he walked out, a cold tension settled over Casey. She had ignited hope, but now there was uncertainty. What did he mean? Who was he really working for? The meeting continued, but Casey couldn't focus. The threats hung over her like thunder in a clear sky. With every passing moment, her resolve felt stronger, yet the shadows loomed larger. As the evening drew to a close, the council agreed to extend the debate about the sanctuary. It was a small victory, but one that felt vital and right. High fives and hugs flew around as the volunteers celebrated, but Casey kept glancing behind her, half expecting the dark-coated figure to reappear in the doorway. Once outside, Casey took a deep breath, the night air thick with possibility. She had fought for her cause, but a question lingered: how far would she need to go to protect it? That night, as if in answer, her phone vibrated again. This time, there was a photo attached, a shadowy figure standing near the sanctuary, watching. It sent a chill through her. What game were they playing? And would Casey be ready for every twist that lay ahead? Casey stared at her phone, her breath catching in her throat. The photo was grainy, but unmistakable. The figure stood with his back to the camera, shrouded in darkness, the sanctuary's chain-link fence stark against the moonlit night. Her heart raced as dread clawed at her stomach. Who was watching? What did he want with the sanctuary? Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. There was no way she could let fear dictate her next move. She glanced sideways to see Elena, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. The energy from the town hall meeting seemed to fade as they both stood in silence. "Casey, what is it?" Elena's voice broke the tension, soft yet insistent. "Look at this," Casey replied, shoving her phone into Elena's hands. The moment their eyes met, they both shared the same anxious realization. The dark figure could be more than just some random observer. He might be an adversary with intentions that could threaten the sanctuary irreversibly. "We can't let this continue," Elena said, a fierce determination emerging. "We need to find out who he is and what he wants. So, what do we do?" Casey felt a mix of bravery and uncertainty bubble within her. The thought of venturing out to confront the unknown was daunting. "First, let's gather information. We need to talk to the others, see if anyone else has seen him." With that, they piled into Elena's car, the tires crunching gravel on the way to the sanctuary. As they approached, the moonlight revealed the tranquil landscape, but Casey's heart was heavy with dread. What if something happened tonight? They parked at the edge of the sanctuary, their senses heightened. The howls of the wolves in the distance provided both comfort and a reminder of what was at stake. "Let us split up," Elena suggested, her voice low as they exited the car. "You go down that path, I'll circle around the front." "Be careful," Casey urged, trying to mask her worry. "I'll meet back here in 20 minutes. As Casey walked toward the fence, shadows elongated in the moonlight, making every rustle of leaves seem amplified. She fought the urge to turn back. With every step, the space around her filled with unease. The sanctuary meant everything to her, and she wasn't going to let fear overshadow that. Just as she rounded a corner, she spotted a flicker of movement near the edge of the treeline. Heart pounding, she crouched behind a bush, breathing shallowly. Was it the man in the coat? Just then, she saw another figure step out, an older man, rugged and disheveled, but his eyes sparked with intensity. "You shouldn't be out here," he called, voice low but urgent. "Not safe."
Who are you?
"What do you know about the dark man?" Casey felt a rush of courage, the adrenaline propelling her words. "I know he is planning something," the man replied, stepping closer, yet still hovering in the shadows. "They want to tear this place down."
What? Why?
"They believe they can make profit from the land, but they don't see the wolves. They don't see the souls here." His words struck a chord deep within her. "What can we do?" She pressed, leaning forward. "We want to let them." With a quick glance over his shoulder, the man said, "We need to work together. There's a meeting at the old barn tomorrow. You'll find allies there, but beware, the dark man will be watching." Before Casey could respond, he melted back into the shadows, leaving her feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath her. She didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear: the battle was only just beginning. When Elena returned, Casey could see the worry etched into her features. "Did you see anything?" Casey hesitated, then nodded. "We have a lot more to prepare for." Elena's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "The dark man is just the beginning, and we need to be ready." With feelings of uncertainty swirling within her, compassion for the wolves surged in her heart. The fight for the sanctuary was transforming her into someone willing to face what lay ahead. But would she gain more than she bargained for in this unfolding struggle? As dawn broke the next day, Casey felt the weight of her mission settle upon her. The meeting at the barn was looming, and with it came a gnawing question: would they uncover the truth in time to save the wolves? Casey awoke to the soft hum of morning light filtering through her window, casting a gentle glow over her cluttered room. The events of the previous night clung to her like a heavy fog, weaving doubt and urgency into her thoughts. As she got out of bed, her heart beat a rapid tempo, echoing the seriousness of the day ahead. Elena would be waiting at the sanctuary. She had to get moving. Casey dressed quickly, opting for a worn pair of jeans and a cozy sweatshirt that felt like an embrace. Making her way to the kitchen, she could hardly taste the coffee that warmed her hands. Her mind was focused on the barn meeting and the whispers of danger that loomed over her and the wolves. The drive was a blur, her thoughts whirling like the leaves scattering outside. Who would be at the meeting? How could they protect the sanctuary? Each question felt like a stone sinking into her stomach, heavy and unsettling. As Casey parked near the old barn, she spotted a small gathering of familiar faces, community members, dedicated volunteers, and even a few wary residents who she knew cared for the sanctuary but had stayed quiet until now. The barn looked like a sanctuary in itself, its weathered wood a symbol of resilience. It stood against the backdrop of a vast sky, a gentle giant willing to shelter all who sought refuge. Casey stepped out of the car and took a deep breath, steeling herself as she approached. Elena was already there, chatting with a few others. When their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passed between them. They shared the same steely determination to fight for something greater than themselves. Everyone's here. I think they're ready to listen, Elena said, her voice a mix of excitement and fear. As people began to settle in, emotions ran high. Fear tangled with hope, creating a palpable energy that hung in the air. Casey's heart raced. She felt the weight of their collective desire to save the sanctuary. Yet, beneath that excitement, an eerie awareness of the dark man's shadow loomed. The old barn creaked as those gathered took their seats on hay bales. Casey stood at the front, her pulse quickening as she prepared to speak. She couldn't shake the sense that this moment would change everything. The sanctuary's future rested in their hands. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice steady despite the clamoring in her mind. We're facing a threat, one that could take away what we've built here. Murmurs spread through the crowd, the anxiety in the atmosphere thickening. The librarian, Miss Patel, raised her hand. Do we know who this dark man is? What he really wants? Casey nodded, recalling the rugged figure from last night. We need to find him and learn more, but I believe he's part of something bigger. We can't let him take this sanctuary without a fight. Just then, a voice from the back, deep and gruff, spoke up. Look, we can't just go out there hoping to confront him. We need a plan. Everyone knows there's power in numbers. Casey turned, locking eyes with the man who had spoken. He seemed genuinely formidable, a weighty force within the group. You're right. But we also need to rally our community, show them we're united. People care about the wolves. They care about this place, and now it's time they knew what's at stake, she urged. Then let us devise a strategy. Elena chimed in, her voice electric in the tight space of the barn. Let us create teams, gather more support. This is about more than just the sanctuary. It's about standing up to the darkness threatening it. As the group erupted into passionate discussion, Casey felt a swell of hope rising inside her. They were rallying together, igniting the fire needed for the fight ahead. Still, in the back of her mind, a nagging fear whispered, what if their plans weren't enough? The talk turned into action, voices overlapping as ideas flowed. But Casey couldn't shake the sense of urgency. Moments later, she caught sight of her phone lighting up on the hay bale. A message flashed across the screen. They're coming for you tonight. Panic shot through her, gripping her heart. The dark man wasn't just watching. He was preparing to strike. As Casey gathered herself, a new resolve ignited. This wasn't just about saving the sanctuary. It was about fighting for everything she believed in. Would they make it in time to stop the encroaching darkness? The barn felt charged with possibility as everyone rallied together. And yet, in the thrumming air, Casey knew one thing. The true battle was only just beginning, and the clock was ticking. As the chatter in the barn intensified, Casey's mind raced with the implications of the message. She could almost hear the whisper of the wind, predicting the storm approaching their sanctuary. The urgency in the air weighed heavily on her shoulders as she looked around at the determined faces surrounding her. "Elena," Casey whispered, her voice filled with a tremor of fear. "What if we're too late?" Elena grabbed Casey's hand, her grip firm and steady. "We won, TB. We have each other. We can't let fear win. Remember why we started this?" Taking a deep breath, Casey nodded. She felt the warmth of Elena's confidence seep into her, steadying her racing heart. They needed a plan, but they needed to act fast. The dark man's presence loomed larger with every passing minute. "All right, everyone, can I have your attention?" Casey called, raising her voice above the rising tide of conversation. The group gradually quieted, a mix of curiosity and concern reflected in their eyes. "We have a limited window to prepare. We need to divide into teams to cover more ground tonight." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Casey's heart swelled with pride for this community. They were ready to stand together, to fight for their sanctuary, and for those wolves they cherished beyond measure. Team 1 will scout the perimeter of the woods where he was last seen. "We need to understand where the threat is coming from," Casey continued. "Team 2 will focus on reaching out to the community for additional support. We need more bodies and more voices in this fight. Finally, Team 3 will work on securing the sanctuary itself." A hand shot up. It was Ms. Patel again. "What will you do, Casey?" Casey felt the heavy weight of their expectations. "I'll coordinate everything and keep an eye on the wolves. If anything goes wrong, I'll be the first to ring the alarm. We need to keep them safe above everything." There was a passionate energy buzzing in the room now. People were forming groups, voices rising in determination as they began discussing their strategies. Casey felt connected to each one of them, their fears and hopes intermingling and creating a sense of purpose. "Remember," Casey began, her gaze sweeping the barn, "this is more than just a sanctuary. It's a home. And we'll protect it like family. No one fights alone." The cheers echoed inside the barn, making the walls vibrate with unwavering spirit. But her heart was still heavy with apprehension. Could they really withstand what was coming? As the teams formed and leaped into action, Casey's phone buzzed again. Gripped by anxiety, she fumbled for it. Another message flashed. "I know where you are. I'm closer than you think." The adrenaline coursed through her veins, hot and urgent. She quickly shared the news with Elena, who paled slightly but squared her shoulders. "We need to be prepared. He won T-strike if we're ready." Just then, footsteps echoed outside, and Casey's heartbeat quickened. "Everyone, quiet,"
she hissed.
There was a palpable silence as they all turned toward the barn doors, breathless and tense. The comforting creak of the wood suddenly felt ominous. A figure stepped into the barn's threshold, cloaked in shadow. Casey's breath caught in her throat as recognition struck her. It was the man from last night, the dark man. "Looking for me?" he said, a mocking smile cutting through the darkness. Fear and courage clashed inside Casey, a whirlwind of emotions battling for dominance. This was it. The confrontation was here, and there would be no turning back. As she stepped forward, the barn became a crucible, a space where hope and despair collided. "Yes, we are," she declared, trying to match his confidence. "You'll not take what belongs to us." What happened next would change everything, but at that moment, all she could think about was protecting the sanctuary, the wolves, and her newfound family in this fight. Could they stand strong against the darkness, or would they be swept away in its tide? The silence in the barn was deafening after Casey's defiant words hung in the air. For a moment, time froze. The dark man's confidence faltered, and a flicker of surprise crossed his face. It was only a moment, but in that brief instant, Casey seized the opportunity. "Nobody here is afraid of you," she said, voice rising over the tense stillness. "This sanctuary means something to all of us. As long as we stand together, you can't win." The dark man straightened, the mocking smile falling away, replaced with something colder, more calculating. "You don't understand what you're up against," he said, his voice low and aggressive. "People like me don't back down easily. You can't stop what's coming, Casey. But Casey felt the strength of the community behind her, their unwavering belief flooding her with confidence. We're not just here for the wolves. We're fighting for each other, for what's right. You see a threat, but we see hope. And hope is more powerful than fear. With those words, the air in the barn shifted. The tension tightened, then burst as one of the council members, Mr. Daniels, stepped forward. Enough of this. If you think you can intimidate our town, you're mistaken. We've already seen the power of unity tonight, he said, motioning to the crowd that had gathered. Elena stood beside him, her resolve shining like a beacon. You think we're afraid of you? You're just one man. We're a community. The crowd rallied, voices rising in a crescendo of support. Infuriated, the dark man stepped forward, attempting to regain control. You won't realize the severity of your actions until it's too late, he snarled, but the resolve of the townspeople surged like a wave crashing against a wall of fear. Just then, a different energy filled the barn. One of the volunteers, a young woman named Rena, stepped forward, shaking her head. You don't get to decide our future. We're the ones who will protect this sanctuary. Not just for the wolves, but for all of us. With that, a ripple of acknowledgement spread through the crowd. This was their moment. In that instant, Casey felt a deep connection to all of them. The fear melted away, replaced by purpose. Let's make a stand, Casey said passionately. We will fight for this sanctuary, for our family here. You may try to frighten us, but our strength comes from each other. Together, we can and will overcome. The room erupted in cheers, roaring louder than Casey ever imagined. The dark man's face twisted in frustration, realizing the power of their unity overshadowed his attempts to instill fear. He shot daggers through the crowd with his eyes, but the solidity of their shared mission shattered any will he had to continue the confrontation. Fine, he hissed. You'll regret this. With one last contemptuous glance, he retreated into the darkness outside the barn, his shadow slowly disappearing until it was just a wisp in the night. Relief washed over Casey, but it was short-lived. The intimidations were not over. The threats still lingered. As she turned, she saw Elena and the others rallying, their faces full of hope, mischief dancing in their eyes. Did we just do that? Elena grinned, disbelief written on her face. We sure did, Casey exclaimed, her heart racing. But we still have to prepare. We need to keep vigilant. Let us spread the word, Rena suggested, her voice resolute. We'll get people to come here tomorrow for another meeting. We need more bodies, more voices alerting our town about the sanctuary. We need to be ready for whatever he throws our way. The plan was taking shape, a resilient tapestry woven from threads of hope and bravery. Under the soft glow of lanterns in the barn, ideas moved like wildfire, energizing everyone as they discussed how to fortify the sanctuary and protect it from both injustice and intimidation. Later that night, as they dispersed, Casey couldn't help but feel the shift in her heart. What started as a mission to save a single wolf had evolved into a greater fight, one that could heal the whole town. As she closed the barn door behind her, she looked out at the moonlit clearing. The wolves called softly from their shelter, serene and strong, undeterred by the storm of chaos around them. In that moment, she thought of her father, the strength he had instilled in her, the courage to stand firm against any challenges. He would be proud, and as Casey turned to walk home, gratitude filled her. She felt alive, not just for the wolves, but for the community they had built, the family she never knew she needed. But just as she reached her car, her phone buzzed again. With a flicker of uncertainty, she glanced down, her heart racing anew. The message read, "Tomorrow is the day. Be ready." Casey took a deep breath, steeling herself. This was the fight of her life, and she wouldn't back down. Tomorrow would bring the dawn of a new battle. But for now, she cherished the moment. The fight for the sanctuary was only beginning, and she was ready to embrace every challenge, surrounded by her true family. This was real. This was hope. This was their moment. Casey and her team were ready. And as dawn broke, illuminating the sanctuary with the first light of day. She whispered to the wind, "We will not be silent." You need to subscribe now and hit that bell icon to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Every message matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions, and together we can create a powerful community.